Alright, so here is the jamb now. So this is the area that the hinge will be off of and all that. Just got done dry fitting that. So this is the second time I've dry fit, and that just ensures that everything's like super tight. And so then now I'm going to take it down again, and I'll make the trim that goes around that jamb to cover it up. And then that should be it for today, really. Alright, I just got done planing a square edge on this. Now I'm going to run it through the table saw. I'll be making casing. Got that piece all squared off and cut to dimensions. Now I'm going to put a round over on it. Alright, so I run it through and split it, and you can see that it keeps the profile, and then I'll plane the back end of this, and then I still have to cut this one, but profile there. Alright, now I'm going to run them through the planer, and that'll give this side the nice flat edge. And why I did that is so that allows me to get a full radius here. Alright, my homie Heath on SV Filaria is coming to Marathon. I'm up in Alamorada, but he's coming to Marathon and he's bringing a life raft, which is like the last thing I really need. But in the meantime, I've got to mount the radar, I've got to mount the mast steps, and then the wind gen mount. Putting that all on the mizzen. We will see. We'll see how she goes. I haven't had a wind gen installed since my last boat, Solitaire. But I mean, there's such a substantial difference in energy consumption. Like right now, I've got things on timer, like the fridge, anchor light, etc. And I'm just like constantly like, oh, am I getting enough power? And I don't want to put more solar panels up. And yeah, the wind vane, or not the wind vane, but the wind gen is just like where it's at. Just a note on the life raft. I've held off on getting one for years just because they're, for somebody like me, they're prohibitively expensive. And I just started looking for one for like the last month. Used. It doesn't matter if it was like out of certification, but I think at this point, especially like looking at the crossing to Mexico and stuff like that, it's just foolhardy not to have one, even if she's like not in cert. So yeah, he came in clutch. He like, yeah, I think it's foolhardy of me not to have one on board, a life raft that is. Just makes sense. All right, I got 3 of the mast steps up, and I got the other 2. They're soaking. They were kind of seized, so I gotta take care of that first. But then I just had I got a measurement for the radar support, and so what I'm thinking is the radar will go above the wind gen support, and that way I can actually use the wind gen as the rest of the mast steps, because I'm not, with 2 more, I'm not going to be able to get as high up, and those are the only ones I can scavenge off of Aura. But I think that'll be good. So the wind gen will go like right below the first set of shrouds, and then the radar right above that. So, and then the radar, I made a few videos about it, and I'll put those out at some point, but it's like I scrapped it. My homie Mark was getting rid of it, and he had the screen and all that, and like missing cords, so I wired it all together, and I just, instead of using like the 4-pin, I just put different connectors onto regular 16 gauge. So those not familiar with mast steps, these are mast steps, and those are mast steps. So I'm up here, I got to drill and then tap each of these 1/4-inch holes, and then go ahead and secure that, and that, you know, get me all the way, not all the way up, but close enough to install. I should definitely have a bosun's chair up here. I'm just using like a gorilla grip. As much as I'm stoked for the energy, I'm stoked to clear out some of this space. I had it stored like way back there. I can put something else there now. All right, have it tied up here on a halyard. So what I'm gonna do is raise it up to about where I want it, and then I'm gonna climb up, go ahead and do a final position and marking. All right, so I've got it positioned about where I want it. It's looking like I'm probably not gonna want to put the radar up there as well. I'll kind of, like, this is a definite, this has to happen, so this takes precedence, and I could always put the radar on the main, but I think I'm pretty happy with that. So I think I'm gonna mark those holes, get some screws in it, and then drop it back down, or yeah, just get the holes tapped, drop it back down, dry fit it while it's up there, drop it back down, and then go ahead and do the wiring and put the fan on. All right, I've got the 2 bottom screws in, so now I'm gonna ease it down and level it a bit, but I mean, it's pretty fucking spot on for not measuring and just like doing it with vibes. I think it's gonna be good. I'm gonna get another screw in the top. That way I can mark all the bolts and go ahead and do all those. I'm gonna add another mast step, the last one right there. That should be pretty good. So I absolutely love magnets. I was up here loading sails so I could do some electrical work, and I dropped my headphone overboard, and this is like a brand new pair. I've got a spare, but the mic is gone on them. And I was like, well, I'm not gonna dive for it. And so I hung a magnet overboard, like right where it plopped, knowing that, you know, I would swing and kind of canvas the area. Waited half an hour and bam. Alright, so adding the wind control necessitated me moving kind of everything else around a bit, but it's alright, it's kind of what I need to do anyway. And I still have this DC to DC to install, but I'll do it back there. I installed the bus, and I got those schematics out. I'm going to shore to get a COVID test, and it just reminds me of like my first year on the boat. I didn't realize, but I had had COVID apparently numerous times. I didn't think so. I was like never sick, and I was just aboard by myself on solitaire. Like I wasn't, because the pandemic was active, right? So I wasn't fucking with anybody. But long story short, you know, it was a couple days. I'm starting to get lightheaded. I'm like anchored in Miami, and it got so bad where I like kept fainting when I was like getting up, and I was like, I'm gonna have to fucking, if I don't get off of this boat, next people gonna be on this boat are gonna be the Coast Guard with my rotting body. And so I was like, I rolled myself into the dinghy, and this was at the sea base, right? So if anybody's familiar with that, it's got like a pretty sketch dinghy dock, but it's like it's secure because it's sketch. But like rolled myself in the dinghy, made it to shore, and then like gimped out of the dinghy and called an Uber. I was like, you got to pick me up like here. Usually I would take a bus out of that park, but long story short, spent 4 days in the hospital with COVID, and I hadn't left solitaire at anchor alone that long yet, and I was like, it was nerve-wracking. It was like, yeah, but yeah, I don't fuck around with COVID, so I'm gonna go get a test. All right, in an attempt to finally end a month and a half checklist item, I'm going to go shine the stainless on deck. That includes like rigging check and all that. It is, I know I've been like, I keep mentioning it, like, oh, I need a but it's just, if you do it right, it can be a long process if you're solo, like pretty much touching every part of your boat, unfastening things, like checking movement, like it's just it's bigger than just like, oh, I'm gonna, you know, shine up a couple stanchions. But yeah, weather's not gonna change for the next couple days. It's gonna be dreary, so get with the program or sit still. So I'll put a before picture up, but essentially, yeah, you got to go over every little bit. I'm using this is the first time because I found it for free. Normally I don't spend money on it. I just use WD-40. But I use that, takes the rust off like straight away, and then clean up any fittings with. I've been using this deep creep for a while now. I love it. Like fuck WD-40, like for real deep creep. Where it's in that. But essentially I go through, got to make notes on everything too. So I'll just put like pieces of tape on and stuff. That way I'm not wasting time, you know, having to like go back, take off my gloves, clean my hands and add it to the list. So that's kind of what I got going on today. Great day. And just a note on like why I've been putting off like the stainless steel and rigging check for like a month and a half now. But essentially it's like so after being in a marina for, what was it, like almost 14 months, you're using your boat differently, right? Like I've went on several day sails, but it's different than actively living on your boat. And so that's why this whole month has just been like kind of getting to know everything. And now this is like the final little, I've touched every inch of the boat since she's been at anchor. I've like run, I've done everything I can do. And now this will reduce like overall stress moving forward, but also like reduce time for deck checks. Like because I've just recently touched everything. It takes a couple days generally, because if you're doing like an entire list, but I mean, then you're good. Then you can see it. You can be like, oh, it's getting worse. That's I got to handle that. Helps prioritize everything. And so this is like how I start, right? These are like the list that I make up when I do these checks, because it's like check the whole boat over the course of days. And but this was one from like several months ago, and I've done, all this stuff actually is done now. I just haven't crossed it off, but I'll go through and cross it off and add it to the main log. Then I've got an idea of where everything is, and like there's all the finished projects. These, they start out as the post-its, then move to the big list, then the big list go here. Got a new neighbor sometime after 3 a.m. I think, unless they didn't have their anchor light on, but they must have dragged and then just moved over here because I'm on like the very outskirts. I went leak hunting because it's raining, and I found one. It's bad because it's right by the chain plate, but I have to like cut back the headliner a bit. So I've got to take this shit out of there. Just put a sponge and some stuff in there. I knew something was going on back there for a while, but obviously it's pretty bad. Worth taking a look into. All right, so I cut away a bit of the headliner, and so the leak is traveling down these wires. I mean, I could keep cutting the headliner all day. Excuse me, but what that tells me is that there's something right along here that's leaking. That wiring runs up to this light here, so it could be anywhere along this. My guess is it's probably the exterior gasket on this, because I don't have any deck hardware out there aside from the stanchion post and the chain plate, which are not leaking. But in any case, at least it's got the drip directed away from the chain plate and the knee. And then another one back there, I've got to clear this fiberglass away, but that is coming from a fastener on the rubber rail. All right, went on deck, got a nice shower, which was definitely needed, and I'm pretty sure I got the leak. I haven't stopped it up yet because it's still raining, but pretty sure it's the exterior lens of that port light, or porthole. All right, I cut back some more because I was not satisfied. This I'm probably gonna have to hit with a grinder. I'm gonna try to hammer it out with a chisel, but I think I'm just gonna end up having to rewire this light, because that's like got like 5200 on there, some shit, and it's just not safe anyway. So I'll just do a race and rewire that. But You can see it's a super steady drip. So to test it while it's raining, because I can't obviously rebed it, but what I can do is I can take butyl, which adheres well enough. So I'm going to cut this strip in half and then roll it and place it into the areas where I think the leak is coming from, and then I'll wait and see, because right now it's, like I said, it's pretty substantial, and it like pulls up and then exits at once too, so we'll see. Out just in the nick of time. I was losing the motor. Tied this on. I'll get in there and bail her out and then stow her on deck. Alright, I was able to bail it out and lift the dinghy up with that, or the motor up with that halyard. Came out right in the nick of time. Another 5 minutes, it'd have been down. Oh man, that was a nice little workout. I hope it didn't look like it got to the head unit on the outboard, so hopefully it's, you know, I'll just run it and switch out the fuel. I'm sure the fuel and the oil are probably mixed at this point anyway. But man, I'm super glad I made that cover for the outboard, because like it was able to just lift it straight off instead of, if I tried to attach to the forward handle on the outboard, it would have just been a shit show. So really happy, and now I know that dinghy just can't put up with a storm the way Katie could. Katie had internal flotation and this one doesn't. So yeah, I just have to take the motor out. It's gonna be shitty. Hopefully starting to clear up. It's moving out east, so yeah, I wanna go. I haven't been off board in a couple of days. I wanna go get a burger. Ended up filling a 2-gallon bucket. God damn.